So you get a little groove like that going. And then you can always add in DJ scratch. So you get this different little collage of things kind of bouncing around. And these are all borrowed sounds, but you're coming up with something different and new. Throw in another throw in just one percussion. I found this sound off a record, and I just decided to loop it right along with this for extra percussion. Take it out, take it in. That's another use.
Yeah, you're losing yourself.
So that's just another example of just kind of playing around with samples. I'm not trying to hide anything there. I'm just combining different samples to come up with something different. And then another example would be beat chopping. Take a phrase, like a whole loop, 8 bars, 16 bars, whatever. You kind of want to chop it up a little bit as kind of like an introduction. This will take a minute. I believe so. Then you just kind of move the sample along. Then throw in a beat. Then you go through the whole phrase. So you're just taking like a loop, and then you're just kind of chopping it all up, and then you go through the whole loop, and you got the beat that kind of rides along with it. That's another example of creative sampling. And then I'll give you another example of like I'd say the best example of blending, and that was kind of like what I showed you on the first one, blending, where we're just even adding in our original instruments too to kind of get the sound so it even blends even better. So we start off with something that's like really simple like this. And then I can show you another blend would be this. Just on itself. Then if you add in like this, then we added in, we can add in a bass line that I came up with. So you get then you add in that first one, and then it just comes up with something just like out of the ordinary and different. Then you throw in choice, whatever you want, like throw in an organ, throw in our lovely PA system. You can just hear it so good. But this is all like combined of like just many different sound sources, and one of them happened to be actually original, but anyway. That's just a real quick little tutorial. I mean, that didn't really sound the best. You probably couldn't hear me half the time, but that's okay. But that's just like an example of creative sampling. And, I don't really worry too much about the copyright police coming down on me. I figure if I do a good enough job of manipulation, chopping and sampling and blending, that I think I'm out in the clear. I just don't want to do, like, I think the second example of just basically, taking things that I'm not manipulating. That's just more for, like, fun. But if I'm going to put any of this stuff out, I'm definitely going to do my best to hide it. They're going to have to come and get me. They won't get me. Kent?
The interesting thing to me about the whole subject is that there's a real hierarchy of different types of sampling and how that interacts with the established system. Like there's about 3 different, and Kembrew knows more about this than me, but there's like performance rights, there's mechanical rights, and there's publishing rights, and they're all three different, and they're all managed differently. So anytime as a musician you start screwing around with this, it's so complicated that you end up contracting. If you're going to make any money off it, you contract with an organization that all they do is clear samples, and there's several of them, and which is crazy to me. And they make a lot of money off of you, and then the original artists make money off of you, even though they're not really involved in your creative process at all. And kind of the biggest, the top level, and it only really happens in commercial stuff where there's people can afford lawyers, and is wholesale jacking, which is kind of the specialty of Puff Daddy and Will Smith. Like the Will Smith, the theme from Men in Black is a straight up jack of the whole chorus from Forget Me Nots by Patrice Rushen. And, you know, because his lawyer talked to her lawyer and the publishing company talked to his publishing company, everyone was happy because money changed hands. And, but when you get down to the level that we're working on, where you're trying to do something new and creative instead of just kind of borrowing a hook, which is the whole thing with Kanye West does it, Puff Daddy does it, all those big guys steal hooks and then they like license them. I was looking at a record a while back and I started looking at the publishing information, like who the authorship was, and there was like 4 layers of authorship. There was the people that actually were doing the performance, there was the producer that wrote the track, then there were the people they were sampled. In this case, it was Public Enemy, and then they also gave publishing rights to the people that Public Enemy sampled. So it was like this infinite regress of people sampling other people and everyone getting a cut. And that only happens when there's a lot of money at stake and people can sell thousands of records. Of course, they can't anymore, which is interesting to me, is like the whole music industry that supported that model of sampling where everyone gets paid doesn't exist anymore because people don't sell millions of records anymore. You know, so where does that leave the rest of us? Well, basically the rule is you can do what you will shall be the whole of the law until you make money, and once you make enough money, someone tries to sue you. So, you know, and the whole thing, and this is actually recent, there was a court ruling a couple years ago, the one-note rule, and the reason that the people got sued is they straight up said, yeah, we took that snare hit from that record. So the people that owned the rights to that record sued them for using that snare hit. And it's the fact that they admitted. If they hadn't admitted of it, they would have never known. But the whole one note, it's not even one note, it's like any sample. What does that mean? That means when you're doing sampling, basically a sample is a sequence of numbers. You know, you start out, and the numbers represent the amplitude of the audio signal that you're sampling. So like any length sample, if I sample one sample, I am of someone else, you know, 3. If I sample the number 3, I'm violating their copyright. And I could theoretically be sued if I went on TV and said, yeah, I sampled that number 3 and stuck it in my track. And that just seems ridiculous to me. Like basically, the way that I deal with it is that I don't make a living off of music. You know, I make more money off of like going to the mill and running the board than I do off of music. I make more money mastering tracks for other people than I make from actually producing my own music. When I produce my own music, I don't worry about it because, you know, the only damages they can really recover are any money, any profit you made off it. Since I'm out thousands and thousands of dollars for what's essentially an expensive hobby, you know, they should pay me if I sample them.
Yeah, and in my situation, I'm actually, you know, I'm being more careful than ever because I know what's at stake. When I'm producing tracks, I'm submitting them to different companies that have a catalog for television shows to look over and see which ones they may want to put in underneath their visuals. It's called music licensing. I've been getting some nice checks from that lately. And one of their things on the contract, no sampling whatsoever. So I got to be extra careful. I got to hide that, blend it, manipulate it, twist it around, because it's right there, no sampling. And if I get caught, I don't want to be blackballed from this. I don't want to be like, you know, don't take a Tack-Fu track. There's samples hidden in there. So I got to be really careful. So I just got to take a different